In 2023, every goddamn buddy wants to be a real estate investor, but is keeping your home in Hawaii and using it as a rental the best way to get there? Let's talk about it. The topic today is, do you rent or do you sell when it's time to leave Hawaii? Now, all of this is just generally speaking. Obviously, when I talk to my clients about this one on one, there are important questions that I ask. What are your goals for the property? What are your goals long term? Are you coming back to Hawaii? Do you plan to live in the home again? It's not black and white. And so just know that whether you're a year into owning your home or whether I'm meeting with you in the new year to talk about listing your home, this will probably be something that we talk about because everybody inevitably asks about it. My general default answer to people is sell. Sell your house, take your money, take your cash and run. Go back to the mainland, and you can probably buy several rental properties that will cash flow you more than a home here in Hawaii. But that's actually not the biggest reason that I tell people to sell. The biggest reason I tell people to sell is this: your VA entitlement is tied up here in your Hawaii house. And if you own a home on your VA loan, you can buy another one, just fun fact. However, then the VA cap, like the loan limit cap, which, side note, isn't actually set by the VA, it's the conforming loan limit, that most of the time the VA just adopts whatever that limit is. That limit just increased. My husband's the mortgage broker, so I'm not 1,000,000% sure on the exact number, but here in Hawaii, it was just raised to, I believe, $1,148,000, and on the mainland, it's in the neighborhood of like 780. So that being said, let's use those numbers for a hypothetical. Say you own a home here in Hawaii and you bought it for $700,000. Great. You keep it and you rent it. You go back to the mainland, you're at Fort Lewis McChord, Joint Base Lewis McChord, and you want to buy a house there because you don't want to rent and pay for someone else's lifestyle, and you don't want to live on base because it sucks. So you want to buy a house, and it's $200,000. You do still technically have $80,000 of your VA entitlement left. You can go over your entitlement, but then you have to put 25% down on the difference. So you're going to have to put 25% down on $120,000, which can't do the math in my head on that, but it's a lot of money. And the reason that most people like to use their VA loan is because why? No money down. That's a huge benefit of the VA loan, and you get access to better interest rates. So, generally speaking, because the loan limit is so much lower on the mainland compared to Hawaii, it normally doesn't work for people to own a home here and then go there and purchase, because then you're not in a position to put zero money down and purchase a home, which then puts you back in the same shitty cycle of renting or living on post, which is what I educated you not to do in the first place when you bought with me. So I say sell, take your money, go to your next duty station, buy a place, buy two places. There are a lot of places in the US. 2022, our seller's average profit was about $90,000. $90,000 will go a hell of a long way on the mainland. You could probably buy a primary residence using your VA loan with no money down and buy a rental property or two with that much money. And they will probably cash flow you more immediately than a home here in Hawaii. So that kind of leads me down the rabbit hole of my other reasons. We have one rental property here in Hawaii and we have 8 in Colorado. So even personally, even though I'm a real estate agent and I can manage my own properties, I'm still a little biased towards, Hawaii not being the place where you build your rental empire. Because you do, if you're on island, you can self-manage. If you're not on island, you have to pay a property manager, and the industry standard for that is 10%. Um, you can maybe find agents that will do it for less, but just be sure if you go down that route that you are not sacrificing anything else to get that discount. Please just make sure that you're getting someone who really is going to watch out for your investment, because you are literally trusting someone to safeguard and to, be responsible for and watch out for the largest investment that most people are going to make in their lives. So don't take that search lightly. And even if you have to pay the full 10%, you're probably better off to just pay for someone who's really going to take good care of the property. So 10% for property management. And then here in Hawaii, we have lots of fun taxes. It's called the general excise tax, and it's 4.5% of the rent amount. So if you're renting a house for, $4,000, you're paying 10% property management fee, then you're paying 4.5% in general excise tax. So even in a perfect world where you can rent out your house for what your expenses are, you either have to rent it out for 15% more than what your expenses are, or run at a loss and be putting money into the property every month, which isn't necessarily the end of the world. It's still putting that money towards an investment, and it's still somebody paying the majority of an investment that is gaining you value. So in that scenario, it's not like the end of the world. But if you couple that with, not maybe being able to purchase at your next duty station, and then if you add to that the fact that when you sell a home as an investment property in Hawaii, you're then subject to something called HARPTA. That's the Hawaii Real Property Tax Act. My disclaimer here is that I am not a tax professional. I am just giving you guys terms that you can definitely talk to a tax professional about. Google, do your own research. But in a nutshell, HARPTA is a withholding to the state of Hawaii for foreign investors. Foreign investors meaning anybody who's not a Hawaii resident. Now, if you're military and you've lived here and you've lived in this home as your primary residence, which you should be because you used your VA loan to purchase it and you have to live in the home for at least 1 year as your primary residence to use your VA loan. If you're selling the home as your primary residence, you can file for an exemption from HARPTA and not have to pay that withholding. If you do have to pay it, you can file to get a portion of it back at the end of the year. And this is where me not being a tax professional is very important, because there are a lot of variables that go into if you can get any of it back, how much you would get back. But just understand that there is an additional process that you would have to go through. The withholding, though, is 7.25%. So I just closed a transaction a few weeks ago. I was the buyer's agent, but I was looking at the settlement statement, and the withholding for HARPTA from the seller was $25,000 that the state of Hawaii is holding back from their profit. So instead of making $50,000 profit on closing day, they only got $25,000 because the state of Hawaii is holding on to the other $25,000 until the end of the year, when they can file to try to get a portion of that back. So there's just all these things that come into play when it comes to evaluating, renting out a home here. We are very fortunate. The property that we do have here is a rental. I bought it as a foreclosure because I like to buy houses on the internet. So we got it as a foreclosure. I'm a real estate agent, so I self-manage it. I still have to pay general excise tax. When I go to sell the property, unless I do a 1031 exchange, I may be subject to HARPTA because it's an investment property. There's just a lot that goes into keeping a rental here versus our Colorado rentals. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West. We don't have to pay any crazy taxes. We cash flow several $100s on all of them in Colorado, and have since we bought them. I just feel like there are better opportunities on the mainland to build a portfolio of rentals if that's your goal versus doing it here in Hawaii. Another thing to consider anytime you're going to be a landlord is just the cost of one, vacancies, and two, maintenance and repairs. So, knock on wood, Clayton and I have had rental properties for damn near 15 years now. The longest vacancy we've ever had, ever in 15 years, was 2 months. And that was partially because we were renovating a property. The mortgage on that property, it was a townhouse in Fountain, Colorado, was $1,000 a month. And so we had to be prepared, to cover that mortgage in addition to, paying our normal mortgage. And that's something that you have to think about as a property owner, as a landlord. And $1,000 for a property in Colorado is certainly more digestible or easy to stomach versus our property here. If it was left vacant, the expenses like the maintenance fees, the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the cost of owning that property is $2,500 a month. So for the 2 months, if that sat vacant, it would cost me $5,000 to keep that property. Whereas in Colorado, it cost me, $2,000 total for the whole thing. Here, double that, more than double that. So you definitely don't want to keep a rental property here if you're not in a financial position to keep up on the mortgage if there are vacancies. And then there's also the cost of repairs. Things here in Hawaii are more expensive. Cost of living is higher, repairs are higher, goods and services are higher. So if someone did do damage to your property and it exceeded what their security deposit was, do you have the money to cover it? Do you have money readily available to replace a water heater or fix something in the home when it's time for it to be fixed, or if it breaks, or if there's damage? So there's also those things to consider as well, not just here in Hawaii, but that's just a pro tip if you're thinking about getting into being a real estate investor, full stop, like in general. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's definitely not a black and white topic. Everybody has sets of opinions and feelings on sell, rent, keep it, get rid of it, like whatever. And that's why I tell people, look, I'm going to have to come see you anyways to sit down and talk about listing the home, whether I'm listing it as a rental, listing it as a home for sale. Let's deep dive on it. Let's talk about it. My main job and focus, as always, is to come at you from a point of getting you educated on all of your options. So let me know if anybody has any questions.